Hey, good morning. I'm recording this right as Uranus is stationary in the skies in Taurus at 28 degrees Taurus, aligned with the Pleiades. And if you've already stopped listening, Uranus doesn't give a fuck. You know, what is important to Uranian energy is disrupting the ego's attachment to where you're not growing anymore. So you can look back to the end of January of this year when he went retrograde. I mean, stationary direct, because these outer planets of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and sometimes Saturn and Chiron, they spend 4 to 5 months in retrograde motion. And so it's really a large part, we're constantly reevaluating what these larger energies mean from a personal perspective, how we individuate, but also how do we undividuate? How do we lose the ego in order to be unified with other people? It's easy sometimes to do it when we look like other people or when we have the same oppressions, but how do you do it when we don't have the same oppressions or when we're playing at the Olympic hierarchical level of oppression? You know, the hierarchy and I'm more victimized than you or my people, you get the point. Uranus and Taurus, been there for 5 years. And the disruption is about money and values and music and anything that has to deal with how we attach our egos, the crystallization of our egos. You know, whether that's our car, whether that's our big ass, whether it's anything physical that we attach our identity to. So since January, and now that he's stationary, and not only is he stationary on September 1st, he's stationary on a day that the other outer planet backs back up into Capricorn. Pluto. So we've got Uranus, grandfather sky, who Venus was produced by the severed genitalia of Saturn. Talk about father-son drama. And she was born as Aphrodite on the seas and all of that. So Venus is obviously playing a role here. And without getting into all the mythology, just pause, breathe. We're born in a body. We're born in certain cultural, conditional attachments to the biological sex and the race and all of that from the body. That's our moon signs, all right? But Venus represents those relationships that we choose, our magnetism, what we attract, our sense of self worth, our interdependency. So, in this, today, Venus is all over right now. We have Libra rising in Kansas City. Hello, Venus. We have Venus in Libra. Hello, Venus again. Uranus is in Taurus. Venus rules that. So there's all about how do we heal? How do we come into a sense of wholeness, representing one scale, because Venus, Libra, justice. One scale is the gravity, the passing of time. How do we age? Yes, we have Saturn chronological aging, we have Pluto psychological aging, and then we have Venus, our biological aging. When we look left or to right, or we look around and we say, how do I age with people of my own culture, in my own age group? So chronological, you're born in a certain year. Psychological, well, how old do you feel? And psyche means soul. So, soul, how old is the soul? Now, if we're really talking about how I see the soul, soul food, soul music, queen of soul, from the basis of that from African American culture and Black people holding soul. We all can, but some of us have different roles assigned by being born in certain bodies. The disruption of Uranus and Taurus has everything to do with the ageless quality of your soul. Yes, because the soul exists outside of chronological time and outside of physical space. And as we move into the age of Aquarius, let's talk about a fifth dimension. When the moon moves into the seventh house, well, the fifth dimension is beyond the third dimension of time and space. And if you think I'm going to get into explaining that, then you need to stop listening right now because I'm not. Gone. Where we are now, when we have a new moon tomorrow evening on September 2nd, we're in the waning crescent aspect of the moon, which I euphemistically and playfully, gravity on one scale and levity on the other. So I call this moon cycle the old crusty moon. So we're looking at where do we see ourselves? when Uranus returns, starts to move again about 4 to 5 months from now, Pluto will spend 81 days in Capricorn. So now into November 19th, we have the transformative energy of the caterpillar, of the snake, of the frog, of the butterfly, all of those energies that go from one form to another. Looking back over the last 16 years when Pluto first went into Capricorn in 2008, name, this is part of your homework, name an institution that hasn't transformed, gotten beyond its form. Whether that's marriage, whether that's the presidency, whether that's Supreme Court. We're still waiting on Congress, people. But just think of different institutions, even our ideas about gender being automatically connected to biological sex. Let's breathe. All of it's being transformed. And that's what these last 16 years are about. And if we look 250 years ago when Pluto was in Capricorn, that speaks to when America birthed itself as a country. So even our Americanism, our exceptionalism, which is an illusion, uh, is being and has been transformed. So with Uranus looking stationary retrograde, just turning up his disruptive volume, and Pluto moving back into Capricorn, you can look at different time zones just over the last 18 months. Look at March of 2023. You can look at September of 2023. You can certainly look at January, the end of January, when Uranus, moved forward again in late January. Pluto had just moved into Aquarius a week before. So we've got both of these energies that one is disruptive and the other is transformative. Well, Neptune sits in the middle of that, and he's at the last degree of his home sign of Pisces. So whereas Uranus shocks and disrupts, like say for instance that you always thought all, fat people are slovenly, or you have this rude assumption about someone who's an other of you. Then you meet a fat person that's neater than you, smarter than you, or however you term this, basically. I mean, we have a whole culture doing that right now. We talk about MAGA people and just the inability to look beyond someone's race or someone's culture. They're other, you know? And I'm not going to talk about any of that. I'm just going to talk about the fact that anytime you other someone, you're in the realm of ego. And Uranus disrupts that. Neptune is more crafty. He dissolves the ego. So let's say you have an argument with an ex-partner or a neighbor or whatever, and then they bring over a sweet potato pie, or the partner sends you a Giphy that makes you laugh. The ex does. Those are the disillusionary energies and disillusion of the ego, the leaning into the we are the world of Neptune that dissolves these balls of conflict that are, come on, egocentric. Fuck, it's the root of ego, is separateness that can cause conflict. And then Pluto, after he looks and says, well, did you disrupt your attachment? Neptune says, hey, did you dissolve the attachment? Then Pluto says, now you're ready to get beyond the physical illusion that we're separate in the first place, that you take, co-create your reality and you co-star with others. So you look and see where you may have been ignorant, where you may have projected blame, where you may have made all sorts of judgments. And with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, you start to recognize all of these beautiful symbols that we have, namely the internet and texting, that that physically show how we're all interconnected immediately. So if they're showing up in the physical world, then essentially they are metaphors or they are extensions of the interconnectedness that we all have. Yeah, let's breathe. So an essential energy of Uranus and its relationship to the archetype of Aquarius, the astral, our raw material of it is aligning with your ideals, shifting the shoulds into I wish I could. Hello, Louise. Hey, uh, it's just important to understand that this illusion of separateness is just that. Now, that doesn't mean we eschew the ego and say, fuck the ego. What we do is we develop the ego with a constant and vigilant eye to the soul and to witnessing the interconnectedness that's shown up through synchronicities, that's shown up through the disruption, like Mercury in retrograde last in August. September is an 8 month, ninth month, 8 year, 2024, adds up to 17. So there's 1 plus 7, 8. 8 is an energy and matter, the infinity symbol, that energy. So realize that the 8 energy that we have this month is about moving through conflict, but through wholeness and unity first. Mercury returns to Virgo on September 9th. So look at what you were doing in July. You should refine and reevaluate your creative projects. How can you be a supporting character in your own life? How can you develop those skills that are there, but you just haven't taken the time to perfect the process of looking at them? Uranus and Taurus says it'll shock you on your values and shock where you are over attached. But in all cosmic comic magic, Uranus is not going to shock anything that wasn't delineating or keeping your heart and your relationship to higher, broader, and more inclusive frequencies closed and broken. Hey, Al Green, how do you mend a broken heart? Good looking out. And what if all days had a Sunday consciousness or vibe? And breathe and think on that one.